Hello everyone, this is Eli G. Brown / Eli G. Brony, and I'm actually recording in a different area this time, a different sort of studio area. It's pretty much the same way that I did during my earliest classic LEGO Bionicle reviews, where I would set up this large white blanket, or some blanket, in my room, and have it act as a studio, long before getting that cabinet that I've been using for a lot of my more recent review videos. Not quite sure if this is what I will be sticking with for now on, but if you think that this works out a lot better than the studio that I had been using, do feel free to let me know, and I may consider maybe making this be a permanent change. So anyway, with the exception of those large vehicle sets that came out in 2008, the Jet Tracks, the Rocco, and the, what was the other one? Axelaris, I think that's what those were called. I can't remember what the rest of their names were, but that was basically the general idea of the names. I have looked over nearly every Bionicle set that came out in Generation 1, as well as some that came out during Generation 2. Now, I'm not quite sure if I will actually ever have my whole collection be complete by any means or something, but, you know, I just want to, well, you know, continue to do all of these different sort of mock videos. I'm not quite sure if I will be doing as many now, but I do have a few that I want to show off, such as these right here. Now these are revamped versions of the Bionicle Star sets that came out in 2010, the last year for Bionicle Generation 1, and this is revamps that use the character and creature building system, although for the ones that I did before, they were not all that great, to be honest. They were kind of small scale, but this is much more upper scale, pretty much to try to make them be just about as tall as they would be with modern figures, or at least be around the same height as the figures up until 2009 had been getting, compared to the much shorter size that we had gotten for the Bionicle Stars. So anyway, I'm going to go over a number of the different revamps I've done in regards to these different characters. Well, for Tahu right here, obviously, the original color scheme for Tahu is that he is red and orange. I'm gonna go get my original Tahu. Be right back. And here he is. The original version of Tahu that came out in 2001, right next to the revamp of the 2010 version. So, you can see that there, well, are a number of different similarities between these two guys, such as how they both are mostly red, and they both have the orange arms and legs, and the original Bionicle Stars Tahu did not have any black pieces at all, but the revamp does, since this uses the character and creature building system, although that wouldn't be introduced for another year at the time of the release of the Bionicle Star sets. But basically, this is just a much better interpretation of the Bionicle Stars Tahu. We're doing this comparison where we see that they both have these flame sword pieces right here, although the new one is a lot bigger. It's the same flame piece that was used for a car. And why they used a Takanuva shield armor piece on the lower arm, I'm honestly not quite sure why, since the original didn't have that. Oh, and the original has a gearbox, while the updated version does not, because we said goodbye to the gearboxes in 2006. Well, we would get them back in 2015, but that's another story. And another difference between the original version of Tahu and the Stars version is that the original has the pink eyes, while the new one has the lime green eyes instead, using the same headpiece that was used for the Matoran sets in 2008. So, that is Tahu right there. Alright, so now here is Takanuva, and I'm also gonna get the original Takanuva from 2003. I'll be right back. And here he is. The two versions of Takanuva that we have gotten, well, from 2003 to 2010, although this is not the official 2010 Takanuva, it's just a revamp of the original. Now for the revamp here, I went ahead and used these armor pieces. I've also used them on Tahu, except they were in red in that case. And those are just... Well, I know that the shoulder armor pieces were actually the white ones, but I went with the silver ones instead. As well as the scout drone that was used on Stormer XL in the LEGO Hero Factory series, that's supposed to represent the chest armor that Takanuva has. And then he has a couple of the weapon pieces, though these are the same old weapon pieces that were used. And Takanuva, in this instance, he uses silver armor instead of the original gold armor that he has right here. So, that is that change right there. And of course, something that I've noticed in comparison between these two versions, the original version, not the revamp, but the revamp pretty much gives you the overall idea of the original. And how you notice that the original Takanuva from 2003 has a single Staff of Light piece, while the Stars version has two. As to where he got the extra one from, I honestly do not know. Much like with Tahu, the color of Takanuva's eyes are different depending on the version, such as having yellow eyes on the original and the lime green eyes on on the Stars version. So, that is Takanuva. Next, we will look at Gresh, and I will also bring the original Gresh for comparison. And here he is. So of course, obviously now you can see that the stars are actually not all as tall as the 2009 Glatorian figures, as well as also the more recent Toa figures that came out. But, you know, not quite sure why they had, they had Gresh in the Stars series, and I know some people liked that idea while others didn't, and I'm not quite sure if there's actually any story relevance to Gresh's different appearance in the Bionicle Star series, or if his new appearance was simply just for the sake of the Bionicle storyline, and otherwise he's not really changed. He just still looks like this canonically, but what we see in the comics is this. Well, not this, but the actual Bionicle Stars Gresh. Now, there weren't a lot of the dark green armor pieces in the character and creature building system. In fact, as of the time of the recording of this video, the only dark green armor pieces that we did have would be the main torso piece and the 3 long-sized armor pieces. To work around that, I used the translucent green armor pieces on the 5 long length, the ones that originally had the printing on them for the Hero Factory 3.0 series, because they do actually look like the dark green color that would actually fit for Gresh. So, that is what I used right there. Now, In comparing these two versions of Gresh, we can see that, well, for one thing, the original Gresh's mask is marbled between the lime green and the dark green, while the Stars version is entirely lime green. And then another thing to notice is that on the original, Gresh carries both of these sword weapon pieces in one hand, and they are marbled lime green and dark green, while the Stars version has two in silver, and they are each in one hand. And he no longer has his Thornax launcher piece. So, that is the comparison made between the two versions of Gresh that we have here. I will be right back as we will next look over Baraka right here. Let me get one representation of Baraka. And for this one, this little comparison, I brought in Vizok since they're both blue Baraka characters. They're not the same Baraka, although I think that some people were interpreting this as being a new version, sorry right there, a new version of Vizok, but this is actually a completely different Baraka. This is Nektan. He is not referred to as Nektan in the set, but in the story, this is what this Baraka's name is. And we can see that, well, there's quite a lot of comparison between the Stars version of the Baraka and the original version. I mean, the original version was, well, the original version had the shooter piece, the Zammer Sphere launcher, as well as this arm right here, while the Stars version does not have that. And another major thing is the fact that the original Baraka had the light-up eyes, although they don't work anymore in Vizok's case. But to see how they work, check out my Baraka review video, where I do demonstrate the light-up eyes. While the Stars version does not have the light-up eyes, in fact, much to my surprise, when I got the set, they actually use the Glatorian headpiece on the Stars version of the Baraka, which is quite a surprise since Baraka did not originate from Bara Magna. He was a character from the Matoran universe. As far as the revamp goes, this one has a lot of the dark blue armor pieces that were on Kopaka Uniter in 2016, as well as the translucent armor pieces in blue that came out during the Legends of Chima Ultra Build series of sets. And what is also present in the original set is this weapon piece, which I think came from Antraz, the red Makuta that came out in the Winter Wave of 2008. So that is Baraka right there, just moving these guys back. And now we are going to look over Skrull. Let me put Vizok away and get the original Skrull. Alright, so here's a comparison between the original Skrull and my revamp of the Bionicle Stars version of Skrull. And surprisingly, my revamp here is a lot, well, almost the same height as the original Skrull right here. This is a representation of the Stars version. Although once again, I'm not quite sure if the new appearance for the Skrull is canon, or if it was just done for the sake of the Bionicle Stars set being scaled down. Now, the original Skrull, the original Stars version, not the revamp, had the same blade pieces used right here on his shoulders. I did not have them present for the revamp of the Stars version of Skrull, since those were used on the Combiner model, which I still have built, which is why I have the revamps here. And, you know, a lot of people did not like the original versions of the Star sets anyway. Now, something that is quite odd comparing these two is the fact that the original Skrull was black and red, but but the new version is black and lime green. What's up with the color change right there? And the Stars version also carries one of Kopaka's blade pieces in black. So, that's that right there. And the Stars version also does not have a shield. Alright, so, on to the next one, which is this guy. Let me get something to represent for a comparison. And for the rock sheet comparison, I brought in Panrak from the 2003 rock sheet series of sets. Now, quite obviously, they are not the same color. I mean, what we have here is that we have a brown rock sheet on this side and a yellow rock sheet over here. Well, it is very well known by longtime Bionicle fans that starting from the Toa and Nika series, we would no longer have any characters that were primarily brown, at least not until Generation 2. And the most commonly used color to replace brown is, of course, yellow. So, the Stars version of Roxy here is supposed to be the representation of the brown-colored character. So, these two characters do fill the same spot of their respective series. Although they are different colors, they pretty much fill the same position in their respective series. They both fill in the stone type character spot. I mean, neither of them are elemented to stone, but stone was the original element that brown-colored characters had, and it was also the element that most of the first series yellow-colored characters would also have over time. Now, comparing these two, well, for one thing, their spines are a bit different. I mean, with the original, we have these spines that could actually detach from the karate containers, while the new spine is just the same piece. And also, the headpiece is completely different right here. You see, it's a separate piece from the spine piece, but with the Stars version of Roxy, you'll notice that there is this little connection point between the head and the rest of the spine. So, there's no way that you can take this piece off and use it for something else. That is, unless you cut it, but some people would prefer not to do that. I personally would prefer not to do that, and to just use this whole piece right here. I mean, if you want to cut this so that this piece is separate from the rest of the karate container, which doesn't contain actual karate in this case, you can go ahead and do that. But for me, I'm just keeping them as one piece, because that was what it was meant to be. So, I'm pretty much going to say I think that I really like the Stars version of Roxy in comparison. I should also point out that the original one had the Key-Torrenge colored Shadow Torrenge feet, but I used the Inika feet for the revamp instead. Now, both the original and the revamp of Stars Roxy also have the same weapon pieces as Gurok, which pretty much are the longest lasting of any of the Roxy's weapon pieces, still existing by the time we get to Generation 2 of Bionicle. And I bet, well, I know that there are people that are going to say, well, they destroyed the molds for the older Bionicle pieces, so how would they be able to get the Gurok weapon pieces back if the molds there were destroyed? Well, first of all, how do you know that the Gurok molds were not destroyed? I mean, it's possible that while most of the molds that they used to create the Bionicle pieces during Generation 1 had been destroyed, it's possible that the molds for the Gurok weapon pieces were never destroyed, at least not as of the time we got the 2015 Bionicle set. So keep in mind that while LEGO may decide to destroy the molds for some of their old Bionicle, or old anything, Lego related, they may still keep some molds around. Alright, well, I think that this video has gotten quite long, although I probably will be editing the times where I go off to get the original figures for a representation. But now to close off this video, it's time for me to go over something that you can do when you have all of the Bionicle Star sets. Now, of course, I did also change out a number of pieces to work around this new building system. The gold armor piece right here is still the same. The mask is still the same. And the shield piece is still the same. However, there was also those golden armor pieces that would be included with Takanuva, Gresh, and Baraka each. However, to work around the revamps that I've done here, I instead have these gold armor pieces, which were introduced in Hero Factory, and this armor piece that was introduced in Bionicle Generation 2. So, this is how the revamped version of Golden Tahu looks. I'm going to take these armor pieces off, the mask off, and this off, and put on the gold armor piece, and these gold armor pieces, and this gold armor piece, and this shield, and the mask. And there you have it. That is the Stars version of Tahu in revamped form with the golden armor on. Okay. Well, I think that I pretty much have covered everything that I have to say in regards to this video. As far as my personal thoughts for the Bionicle Stars sets goes, I actually found those sets to be quite interesting and pretty okay. I know that lots of other people were not too happy with the Bionicle Star sets. When they came out, there weren't a lot of people that were very pleased that Bionicle had been coming to an end. There are people that despised the fact that the sets were using the Obmatoran builds. And I will say, it probably would have worked out better if they had done something a little more like this. I mean, I know that they would not bring in the character and creature building system until the following year, but, you know, I personally found it okay. I was pretty much neutral to the idea of the Bionicle Star sets. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video.